Believe in Sam Howell.
Good evening and welcome. Simply Sports Mock Draft, guest mock draft edition. I'm here with Noah Abdel-Malik, Kevin Slattery, and Justin Ellis. Welcome, boys. Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a little while since we did this, but thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Marsh. Thank you.
So we have 4 people here, 8 picks each. We're going to go down the list, starting with pick 1. Give your reason for the pick and why you're taking them. So we've got Kevin Slattery with the Panthers. You're up first on the clock.
I'm going to go Bryce Young. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I think he processes the best. And I think outside of his size, really he'd be the best quarterback in the draft, and it wouldn't be a question. I'm Team Young. I've been Team Young for about 2 years or so. So I think he's the best move for Carolina. Whether it works out, though, it's up to them. At the same time, I think we've seen smaller guys like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson kind of break the mold. So I would say I'm less concerned because I feel like he just processes very well. And I just feel like outside of his size and the potential injuries, that could come from that, I wouldn't personally have a problem drafting Young at all.
Well, consensus agrees with you. He's the number 1 pick according to the NFL mock draft database. So we'll just be posting that list along the right-hand column if you wanted to see where, kind of the masses have these guys ranked, not necessarily if they're going to be that good. So with pick 2, we've got Justin as the owner of the Texans. What are you thinking with the second pick in the draft?
If anyone's followed the odds and news story, there's a Reddit thread going around right now of someone who says they're a friend of Will Levis, who's saying he's telling all of his friends and family that he's going to the Panthers at number 1, causing his odds to shift from plus 4,500 to plus 400 in a matter of hours. Great idea to send fake news out so that you can get the Bryce Young pick right at number 1, though. That's what I like to see. That makes your betting odds better. You make a couple extra bucks that way. But speaking of making a couple bucks, the Texans are going to be handing CJ Stroud a payload at pick number 2 here. Stroud, honestly, I'm a bit worried about how he's performed on some of the tests he's had to take. I think there's some questions and concerns, but if you're the Texans, you need a quarterback. You need to start trying to shape your franchise in a way that's actually going to set you up for success. And having 2 picks in the top 12, now's the time to take those opportunities. Something that if Houston takes any other quarterback here or does anything else with this pick, unless they trade down, I think they're going to look kind of ridiculous for not taking Stroud or Young at this pick.
And with pick 3 for the Cardinals, Noah.
So I'm thinking I have 2 options. The number 1 option that I would think is pick the safe guy on defense, get a blue chip prospect on defense that'll be kind of your captain, your defensive leader in your locker room, and kind of bid your time for next year because you're going to be awful because Kyler's not playing for Caleb Williams or Drake May, something like that. But having just signed Kyler to a monster deal, I don't know how easily you can get rid of that or get out from underneath it. So I'm going to have the Falcons move up to 3, whatever draft compensation that would be. I would assume probably a 2 and like some future draft pick. I'm going to go Anthony Richardson here out of Florida. We kind of just talked about this off screen, but Justin kind of talked me into it. I think the dude has the potential to be special. I feel similarly about him as I did with Josh Allen. I don't think it's the same guy, but I think it's a similar mold. Obviously, being a Pats fan, watching a lot of Mac Jones, going to watch Anthony Richardson, I can't see the balls he's throwing, so that's pretty good. A lot of his flaws are rooted in a Florida offense that was really nonsensical and kind of funky for an SEC offense that you're just running like double corners off play action in the red zone. It doesn't really make sense to me. So I think the tools are there, and I think if Jonathan Gannon can get it out of him, I think he'll be great. And I think it's a team that can probably compete for the NFC South at least. It's not a very good division.
And I said it off screen, I didn't name the players, but it's crazy they added Jesse Bates, Calais Campbell, Mike Hughes, and Bud Dupree to that defense. Like for a defense that has been known to struggle, especially the obvious late game blowing of games on repeat, it's cool to actually see the Falcons try to pay their defense for once.
Yeah. And I also didn't want to get stuck with the conundrum at 8 of staring down the Bijan Robinson barrel. I'm going to avoid that altogether.
With that being said, I will be picking Tyree Wilson. I will also be getting fired after the season. But
let's go. Gardner Minshew versus Nick Foles for the Colts job.
I'm sure people are very surprised why I'm not going Will Anderson. And Wilson, to me, has some truly dominant stuff in his tank. And I don't think that he's inherently risky. When I pick a guy this high, I want a guy that can be a second contract super value, where if I'm paying you basically like top of the market, I think you can actually exceed that value. So as long as as long as his like foot's not really screwed up, I love his potential. The off-field stuff with Jalen Carter, plus the fact that you've already got Buckner there. I'm gonna have, if I'm rolling out Pay, Tyree Wilson, and Buckner, like I'm feeling really good about myself. Even though my offense is gonna be pretty brutal.
I'm going Miles Murphy, man.
Ooh.
Like he's raw, but he's athletic. He's got a good spin move, good power, good finishing, good speed. On the technical side, maybe not there yet, at least what you see from like evaluators, but I just think like when you look at Seattle defensively, they're fundamentally sound and they can play in coverage. They also need help at guard, but despite that, I'm going to go Miles Murphy right now. Defensive end, get that pass rush on the edges.
Did you guys see the thing that Brett Coleman put out where he was basically saying like NFL, like a lot of people in the NFL, like their top kind of rank or like for a tier is
Miles Murphy's up there with
it's like Smith, Murphy, and then Wilson Anderson.
Yeah.
I think they view Murphy a lot higher. I mean, like when you look at him on the surface, like he's got like all these things. I think people are a little scorned because he's from Clemson. I mean, he's way better than the other guy, Farrell, who went even higher than this. He went pick 4. That was wild given the class. I mean, I think Murphy's way better than him. And if the NFL is pretty high on him, like you go through it, like it's not like this guy ran 4.8. Like, didn't he run the 4.5s?
I think so.
Yeah. So he's like 270, runs 4.5. Like you can nitpick parts of his game, but like, I think at a certain point you're trying to find, productive starters, and they already have Draymond Jones on the inside. So you'd be rolling out Darrell Taylor, Miles Murphy, and Draymond Jones.
Over Will Anderson though?
I think they're similar. It's just that, and the thing with Anderson is he's good at everything, but he's elite. Kind of, I feel like in a Yannick Ngakoue type way of like you're just like, all right, like go get the quarterback. But I guess I like Murphy because it's almost like what can he be?
Yeah,
Murphy,
I mean, especially after the draft they had last year, I think you're okay rolling the dice if you're that GM to be like, I know what I'm doing. Justin, I feel like you have a lot of guys here that you didn't think you'd have available to you.
That is exactly what's going through my head right now.
I know.
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, Will Anderson is number one in my ranks. I don't think he's going to go number 1, but he is the number 1 player on my board, like period, for any team. At the Lions pick, though, I'm looking at this, I'm like, I just went rusher last year and got Hutchinson, and he's been great. Jordan Love's getting his first crack at starting time. Fields runs around the pocket a lot. We need guys to chase him down. And you never really know what you're going to get out of Kirk Cousins, but that offensive line isn't great. Do I get Jalen Carter and basically bring the second coming of Ndamukong Suh to Detroit? Or do I cover the need I just traded away by trading Jeff Okudah to the Falcons? And I think corner is the weakest area in a Lions team that I think is set up to possibly win their division. But Will Anderson is just so talented.
Can I make a counterpoint? The corner?
Yeah.
I think it's a better corner class in terms of first round talent than it is an edge class. And I think if you're Detroit and you bring in a guy like Will Anderson, who you could get something similar, maybe not like Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon good at 18, but in a way you are playing with house money right now. So you could just say best player available off your board, take Will Anderson, then watch him and Aiden Hutchinson eat Kirk Cousins' chains right off his neck.
Yeah, because I have 5 edge guys I like in the first round, and I think I also have 5 corners. So I'm actually a bit more bullish on the edge as well in this class. Yeah, you know what? I'll take Will Anderson here. I think it's just going to make the most sense here. That team's going to be a bully. I think it's especially because Jordan Love is going to be playing quarterback, and just the quarterbacks in that division and the offensive lines they're going to face. That's a difference maker for a team that wants to win.
So with pick 7, don't expect them to do this. There have been reports that the Raiders are a bit snake bitten with some of these issues, but we are going Jalen Carter here because I said so.
Oh no.
You just ruined Jalen Carter's career. It's official.
A little bit about Carter. He's a guy where if you watch his film versus if you watch him on TV, you actually get like an appreciation for like, oh wait, he's how big and like cuts like a tight end. Like it's pretty wild. Some of his like body control, explosiveness, change of direction. His body type is very rare. He to me has a supreme ceiling. He can one gap, he can two gap, he can play like pretty much whatever D-line technique I need him to play. I'm sorry, I can't pass him. Like if he fails, like it's not because he's not good. Jalen Carter at 7. With pick 8, Noah traded down from 3 to pick 8 with the Cardinals for some random amount of capital. Which is actually pretty good move. So now the Cardinals are at 8, a lot different situation than they're at 3. And in the real draft, we're presuming that they want to like it's pretty out there that they want to get out of 3.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially with the amount of teams trying to look up for a quarterback. I mean, Levis is still on the board. You could trade down here. I'm not gonna do it again. But in real life, I could see Tennessee picking up the phone here if Levis is falls all the way to 8 and be like, hey, New England also Sleepy had a visit with him. Let's hope not, but you never know. So for Arizona, now I'm thinking is, do I listen to Kyler and try to appease him? And the reports of today that he said he loves Paris Johnson, which he's up there. He's a good tackle. I don't know if I would pick him at 8. That's a little rich for me, but I don't hate it. Or do I try to build up the defense? And I think what I'm going to do is try to help that secondary and pick Christian Gonzalez here. He's not my number 1 corner. That'd be Devin Witherspoon, but I think he's got a little more prototypical size and he's a little more polished as of right now in terms of being able to do everything that you're going to need your true number 1 corner to do. And I think he's going to bring a little flair to that Arizona defense and kind of help them build a little bit of an identity.
Yeah, Christian Gonzalez, just height, weight, speed, merchant. He's almost 6'1.5", almost 200 pounds, 197, 4.38, 41.5 vert, pretty good ball production. Like, I know there's a big debate between him and Witherspoon, but I don't know. I feel like those are like kind of the 2 clear guys at the top.
Yeah. And also one thing I liked about Gonzalez in his film is he got mossed in the Georgia game at first and like that corner fade route. And I don't know if you guys saw, I don't think that's happened again on film. I don't know how much Christian Gonzalez you guys have watched, but I haven't seen him get like bodied like that by a receiver. And
yeah, I mean, like, and that was his first game in action after transferring from Colorado. That's a little similar to AJ Terrell when he was coming out of Clemson. He got killed for the Jamar Chase game, which is obviously worse. He gave up like 200 yards.
Yeah.
And got now the guy mossing him mosses everyone. But like you're getting that type of athlete, and Gonzalez might even be a better like height, weight, speed adjusted, which is pretty crazy because Terrell's a crazy athlete. And so pick 9, we got the Bears. Kevin, where are you thinking?
Basically, this entire roster needs a complete revamp. And I think so much of Justin Fields has been running that he actually has, people have complained about him in the pocket, but I've looked at times just watching Bears games on Sundays and I'm like, what pocket is he supposed to throw out of? What is he supposed to do but not run? And I'm looking, honestly, if they're going to draft somebody, I think it should be Peter Skoronski.
I would like to rewind time and offer you a trade. I am the Philadelphia Eagles. I will trade you our 3rd this year and a 5th the year after, a 5th next year for your pick to move up 1 spot. Go down to 10. I want 9.
So I'm the Bears. I moved to 10 this year.
And I give you another 3rd for in this draft right now. And
Okay.
then I'll give you a 5th for 2024.
A 5th round pick?
Yeah, for 2024.
I'm going to go no.
Okay.
He says no.
That's
Peter
the best I can do.
Skoronski.
Bro, the Bears need power. They need just a man who can go in there. I mean, this is a guy too, I think, who took over right after Rashawn Slater left. and then proceeded to get like all conference honors. Like his dad too was like a captain for the Packers. Like he's got football blood in him. And I just think sometimes you just need a big man who can just control people. It's not going to completely fix that team. They're still probably maybe going to get 5 or 6 wins, but you know what? You got to start somewhere. You got small steps, one day at a time.
Well, it would have been a better first round if I would have not only almost won a Super Bowl, but I almost got Peter Skronsky. And yes, they wanted Christian McCaffrey years ago. And yes, Bijan Robinson could very much be a playmaker and a difference maker for this team. But ultimately, Howie Roseman is very passionate, and I agree with the passion in this scenario about making sure to take care of the aging players and make sure we have a defensive line that can be forever rotating and continue to be an improvement. So, with this pick, I'm going with the guy who I have as my number 2 edge rusher right now. I'm going to take Nolan Smith with this pick. At pick number 10, I'm going to bring another UGA player to come join Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean on that defense. I think they see a lot out of that defense and how they scheme and how they plan that matches what the Eagles want to do. And I think Nolan Smith's going to make a great addition to that with an aging Brandon Graham who couldn't play 50% of his snaps even though he was healthy the entire season. Aging Fletcher Cox, a loss of Javon Hargrave. We need a few more defensive linemen to solidify what we have there, and Smith is going to be the guy to do that.
So at 11, sitting pretty with Will Levis sitting there at quarterback, but I can't bring myself to do it. I am not high on Levis. I don't think I want to pick him. This seems early for me. I like his toughness. I like his arm, but the processing to me just isn't there where it needs to be. And the mayo in the coffee is a bit weird. Seems like a big character red flag to me. So I'm going to pass on that. And I'm going to go with my OT1 Broderick Jones out of Georgia. This team needs to kind of refine their roots in the running game to, you know, give whatever threads left on Derrick Henry's tires one last run, assuming they don't trade him. I don't know what all the talk about that is, but if they can hang on to Derrick Henry and give it one last go, I think it takes the pressure off of your young receivers like Treylon Burks that we don't really know what he has in him yet. And then I think kind of help make Ryan Tannehill more comfortable so he's not running for his life every snap.
Jones is also my top guy for offensive tackle. I think he's the most talented guy. You know, still needs some development, but he's very, very young. But yeah, I think ability-wise, like, you know, this lines up with their timeline too. You know, give him time, give this whole team time.
Yeah, so at this point, I've got my QB. I lost Brandon Cooks and I added Robert Woods. JSN's the clear like number 1 feel for everyone, but we all know that Zay Flowers has been moving heavily up boards and could be the more explosive player. But ultimately, I think the Texans need more size than anything right now. But Stroud's arm's really good. Ugh. You know what? I'm gonna pull. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull the trigger and I'm gonna say because if the Texans took Young at pick 2, I think they would take JSN at pick 12 if they had the option. But because they picked Stroud, I'm gonna say they pair Zay Flowers with him instead. So give me Zay Flowers to go at 12 here. Just he has the best burst option out of anyone in the draft. If you're looking for the swing big out of the Texans options, I think they swing big here. I don't think they have anything to lose right now outside of, you know, they're drafting wide receiver this year. They don't even have wide receiver depth to begin with. So any number 1 you bring in there isn't going to have the best season because they're going to have to deal with corner ones all season. I'd rather take Zay Flowers to take my chances that I have a guy who's actually going to burst and beat some people than a guy that is going to try to outsize competition.
Did you want him at 14?
Yeah, I wanted that at 14. To me, he's my wide receiver 1. I think he's got the most upside of any guy in this class. I do see the AB comparisons a little bit. I'm not saying he's AB. I'm not saying he's got, you know, that Hall of Fame upside. But I mean, if you're like a slightly less productive, but more, so what I want to use here, intelligent Antonio Brown, you guys saw a pretty good guy there.
That's not very hard to say more intelligent than Antonio Brown.
I know. I was looking for the right word to say. The bar's on the ground. But
Yeah. Flowers, a comparison to me, I've been saying if you combine Julian Edelman and Tyreek Hill, I think that's what Zay Flowers could be as far as
Yeah.
high upside.
Mhm.
Which is why I agree. I think the Pats would be a great spot for him as well. But
I think so
the
too.
I think the Texans will be a bit too thirsty for blood with Stroud to need to get the fast guy out there.
Kevin, you've got pick 13, the Packers. Are you looking at Devin Witherspoon still somehow on the board, or are you going elsewhere with it?
Looking at Jordan Love stepping into the fray, two young receivers in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, who are still, I think, developing as receivers in terms of their route running, knowing how to break in zones. Like, it's still a development. They got talent, but I think it's still a development process. I think they go for a guy who gets open, good route runner, knows how to beat zone coverage, and Jackson Smith Njigba. I think they go for him. And it could be a reach because he doesn't have there's not a ton of, you could argue, tape in terms of like he got injured and then, he kind of was trying to like work himself back into it. But if you listen to like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, they were like, hey, this guy was the most talented guy of us three. He has good hands. He maybe isn't great speed vertically downfield. So as a deep threat, he's not going to be maybe elite. But I think for a Packers offense that honestly needs easy check down yards, maybe besides like Aaron Jones, I think he could do that for you. Like maybe there are questions like, okay, well, what's he going to be yards after catch? Is he going to be really a great receiver like a year or two down? I just think fundamentally he's sound. You could have gone Michael Mayer tight end, but I just think that the Packers, they need to upgrade their offense, and I like irony, so I think it would be kind of ironic that they would pick a wide receiver after Aaron Rodgers left.
Just because you already have Christian Watson on the outside, like you've got your deep guy. With JSN, again, sometimes you have to look at this like financially too. Like, what is it, $5-6 million that he's going to be making? You could not get a receiver this good on the open market for 3-4 times that even. Like that's what you have to pay to get this guy. So yeah, I love the fit there. Noah, pick 14. Where are you thinking about right now for your hometown Patriots?
So the two guys I was considering are gone. My heart breaks over Zay Flowers. So thanks for that, Justin. Really
Yeah,
ruined
for
my
sure.
night. That was my favorite pick, but all right. I'm thinking there's some tackles left on the board that look to be pretty good, but my best player available right now is still the guy I'm going to take. It's Devin Witherspoon, who I did not think would last this long. I think this defense, it's best when it has like a lockdown man corner. I think he can play outside. I think you can play him in nickel. You play him in the slot. He's physical. I mean, he misses some tackles because he takes really terrible angles sometimes, but that's coachable. He's willing at least, and you can't coach that. You can't coach gameness. So I like that out of Witherspoon. He's got good ball skills, got good hips, and he's just a perfect Belichick corner in my opinion.
Yeah, if he's on the board for 14, I don't see how they really pass him up.
Yeah.
Well, you guys took a lot of the guys that I wanted for pick 15. I was going to go either Broderick or Skoronski. I thought that those guys were really, really nice fits. The problem with Bijan is, while I think the value would make sense here, you've already got Breece Hall and Michael Carter. I don't love the fit with Wright either, but I might have to go there. Yeah, we're going to go Darnell Wright. So Wright and Broderick both have early 2s for me, which is basically that's where they would go in like an ideal draft, which you never see an ideal draft. So for reference, they're a little behind where I had Christian Darrisaw. While Wright, there's some concern about like the fit, the scheme, like is he exactly like a wide zone guy, but I'm still going Darnell here, even though in an ideal world, I'd probably want to pick him a little later.
I think this draft is getting boring, man. Like, we're doing a lot of picks where it's like, hey, this team's going to make a smart move here that's going to improve their team immediately. And you know what? That's good on them. I appreciate well-read people who try to do their homework. But sometimes, man, you just got to throw a wrench in things. And for the
Hooker,
Washington
please.
Commanders, wait, what?
Hendon Hooker, please.
Will Levis.
Will Levis.
Oh, thank God. I don't have to pick him at 19.
I'm going in with Will Levis. Look, yes, it would make sense to maybe go offensive line, specifically maybe tackle. yes, it would maybe make sense to go for cornerback depth, especially since they gave up a ton of yards receiving wise. But the Commanders of all the organizations, we've had the Supreme Court argue that corporations are people. And if I were to argue that the Commanders are a person, I think you'd have a tough time because I question them being a sentient being. I don't know if they believe in anything. I think at times it's just nihilism that motivates them. So you've moved off of Dan Snyder and we're going complete blank slate. I expect a Commanders move that maybe doesn't make sense. You got Jacoby Brissett. He's kind of in a placeholder role, veteran. You got Sam Howell. Howell maybe can be competitive. Maybe he can win a game or two for you. But I think you want another quarterback. You know you want another quarterback, Washington. You've been desperate for a quarterback for years. You want what you can't have. You want to put your hand in the cookie jar. You want to put it there. So, Commanders, quarterback, Will Levis, he's able to make some nice throws, but there's a Carson Wentz quality to him where it's like, there's some times where it's like he has the right idea, but then he'll throw and then the ball just doesn't end up in the spot where he wants it to go. I think it would be so Washington to get off of Carson Wentz and to potentially draft a guy that could be Carson Wentz 2.0. I want to introduce or have some fun. So let's have Commanders Will Levis happen. I think if he goes to the right situation where, hey, you have a set pocket, you can get your feet set, you're not going to rush your throws, and he can just focus maybe on fundamentals. Like I could buy Will Levis, but I feel like some of these teams are going to look at the potential and go, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
Just go Levis.
He's a guy that I mean, like, I've hated at certain points in this process and have kind of cooled off on hating him because I've kind of seen him for what he is. I don't think that he's one of these unlimited ceiling guys, though, despite his physical profile, but I think he could be good if you kind of get the right things out of him. I do not see him taking over games, though. I don't think he has those ingredients within him. Despite having the physical skill set to be able to theoretically do that, I would be surprised if we saw that in the NFL. But that being said, like, dude, there's a point in the draft where, what are the Commanders going to do? You know,
To pass up those Pittsburgh bloodlines though.
oh, for Porter.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the only downside is I would like if you could change directions a little bit. Yeah, you got the outside linebacker genes.
Yeah, like an old school outside linebacker too.
Yeah.
Like real
So
stiff.
He's giant. Like Porter would be incredible in like the 70s. Just hitting you with 2x4s, those long arms. I'm actually really stuck here. I'm either going Banks or Paris Johnson.
Stick with your instinct. Go with Banks.
No, you want Paris, don't you?
Oh no, I don't. That's not where I'm going next.
All right, I'm sticking with my instinct. I'm going Banks. Okay. So the reason I'm going Banks is I can see that this team kind of transitioning a little between what their identity is. I think if you get that one corner, they need that corner really bad. You need tackle as well, like for sure. Like you could give me crap for not going Paris Johnson here, right? I do think Banks is a little bit better of a player, and it's a need that we have. And I have the confidence that we are going to be able to address offensive tackle later. I kind of screwed myself, though, because I probably should have passed on Darnell Wright with the Jets, which didn't make as much sense for the Jets. So I could save him for the Steelers. But you know what? We're not thinking that way. Yeah, so pick 18 with the Lions. Justin, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so honestly, Banks was one of the two people I was deciding between for this pick. So when that happened, it honestly made my decision a lot easier. Technically, there's two people in my head for this pick, but they both play the same position. So I'm going to go with the guy that has the film. I'm going to draft Dalton Kincaid here to fill in for that tight end position that we have left completely empty with Hawkinson gone. Jared Goff was relying a lot on those backup tight ends, and I just don't think that's what Detroit wants. I think they want to make the big play now at this point. We've already got Will Anderson. We've done something for the defense. There's no corner that I'm in love with, but Dalton Kincaid is going to get play time very early on. He's got to be an impact player. He's going to assist Jared Goff with more check downs. It's going to provide just a ton more opportunity for this team in general on offense, which is something we're looking for here, is to bring back that tight end position to the mix this season. So give me the best pass catcher in the draft. I do think Washington might be the best tight end overall in the draft, but Kincaid just has more film and more to trust with the mid first round pick.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with Kincaid and Washington. They're either in a, kind of their own tier at the top, just those two players. Would be very interested to see Musgrave if he actually like stayed healthy, kind of where he would be.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, Kincaid killed it this past year, and very, very interesting background as well. So the Bucks at 19, Noah, where are you thinking with them?
I don't love this pick at all. I don't love this slot. I don't know where the Bucks are going. If there was Will Levis sitting here, I would have picked him. I have zero faith in Baker Mayfield. I would honestly, if I was Tampa, I would have just trotted out Kyle Trask and see what happens. You know what Baker Mayfield is. He's just not very good. You don't know really about Kyle Trask. He had some potential at Florida, had some tools. But in the end, they signed Baker. So what I'm going to do is try to reinforce my edge and go with Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. I think he has so much potential to turn into something really good. He played at Iowa, which is he didn't start, he didn't play as much as you would like him to, but I think he flashed a lot. I think he had a ridiculous 3 cone. I can't remember what the number was, but it was like sub 7, something like, or like really like low 7s at 200, however many pounds he is, 270.
Yeah, 702 3 cone, 80th percentile for edge defenders.
You could play him all around the line, really, if you want. I mean, to some extent, you could push him a 3 tag if you want. But I think it makes sense on 19 for the Bucks. Shaq Barrett's not getting any younger; he's hurt, so that's where I'm gonna go.
I feel you. Kevin, with the Seahawks at 20, where are you kind of going with this one?
Yeah, I think before we talked about their ability to generate pressure, at least defensively, like at the DN spot. Now I'm kind of looking at their interior, their guard spots. I think they could use improvement there. I'm going to go Osiris Torrance. I like him because he's got a big frame. He knows he's fundamentally sound. He maybe doesn't have the athleticism, maybe you could say, to quote unquote be like a great player in his position, but I just think he's going to be very solid. And I think for a Seattle team where you're looking for a guy maybe who can drive, especially with like good, strong, powerful leg, drive, be a good run blocker, like be adequate in pass protection, all that. I think he's a guy who look at in Seattle and you're like, hey, like this is what we need, especially too right now in the draft where, it's maybe like him and like Steve Avila, but like outside of that, like maybe not, like arguably not really a guard heavy draft. So I think demand and then also supply creates demand, supply and demand market we live in. So I'm going to go him. And I think Seattle walks away with big people to help protect their quarterback and then also to make the life of the other quarterback a living hell. So I think Seattle comes away from this draft, at least ideally, with those two guys trying to be stronger.
So the Chargers at 21, kind of hard. I don't think Parrish should drop this far. He's definitely not going to in a real draft. Between Bijan, and by the way, Osiris, completely agree with all that stuff. I think he's super safe. Kind of gives them an added dynamic, especially with Kenneth Walker. So if you have him and Damian Lewis as your two guards, like you're kind of rocking and rolling. But anyways, with the Chargers, a little tricky here. Paris versus Bijan. I would have loved Zay Flowers here. And I know he's way off the board.
I agree.
I
I have
would've
Zay Flowers going to the
loved-
Chargers in a few mocks.
I would have loved Zay. And it sucks he's not here. So for that, we're going Paris Johnson, playing him at right tackle. You are not starting over Slater. And that kind of solves as much for anything for financial reasons. Getting a starting tackle at this low in the draft, even if you don't think he has the greatest Paris has some issues, right? In terms of like his blocking mechanics, and that's different from technique. He's very tall, upright. He's upper body dominant in terms of like his triceps are like, he got like 29 reps on the bench. But when you watch him in game, like he doesn't fully kind of like he plays very hard run blocking, but he doesn't like move guys. He doesn't shock you. He can finish some, but his lower body traits he's very coordinated, but he's not like powerful bottom up. And he's got these skinny little calves too. So Paris, while you feel good about him, I feel like he got punished for this mock for, not being like, when you look at him, you think he's like an elite tackle on like first glance. And I feel like when you like look into him, he's not quite at that level. So, he'll need like a little bit of development. I think he's going higher. Like a lot of the report, Kyler Murray apparently wants him, which, Kyler, I don't know if listening to you about O-line now evaluations is the best move for the Cardinals right now. But, I think he could be like a long-term starter. I have some gripes with him, but it's not like major. It's not like I don't think this guy can play. We're going with him in the Chargers, and then we're going to have to address our weapons at other points in the draft and probably go pretty heavy on them.
No to potential draft prospects. Andrew Marshall wants draft prospects with big, beefy calf muscles.
Because Andrew Marshall has big beefy calf muscles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Safe to show on social media, but
yeah, we're gonna censor those for the audience at home. You're not seeing them yet.
you can leave those on my cutting room floor.
Yeah. Now, if you pay $4.99 a month, maybe.
Only
I picked 22. Justin, you've got the Ravens. What are you thinking here?
I'm going to take Quentin Johnston. Keep a guy in purple, keep him in purple. I'm obviously a bit triggered by TCU players as an Eagles fan after watching Jalen Reagor play for multiple seasons. But Johnston's the guy with big height. Ravens just don't draft height guys. So they need someone big out there. Maybe it can help convince Lamar Jackson to stick around to show that we're willing to use some first round talent to bring in a wide receiver. Hopefully that makes the tide sway a bit more in our favor. We have a big man in Odell now. We had a big man in Quentin Johnston. We have Rashad Bateman in the slot. We have Devin Duvernay as a deep threat. We have Mark Andrews. Offensive line could use a tiny bit of work, but you can't argue with the receiver class at that point with what we're trying to provide for Lamar to maybe make him take a minor discount to stay here for at least one more year and see what happens.
I feel compelled to pick Keyshawn Butte just to pick an LSU wide receiver after TCU and have my second coming of Justin Jefferson. But in all seriousness, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go and pick, I think, the best defensive player left on my board, and that is Brian Branch. DB, safety, nickel corner, slot corner, whatever you want to call him. Give Brian Flores something similar to what he had with Minkah Fitzpatrick to work with. Give him something to work with on that defense. I don't know that you can't play him at outside corner, but I think the slot corner positions become way more valuable. You can play him at safety. You can kind of pop him around your defense however you want. He's a good player. He's instinctual. You can play man, you can play zone. And I'm just throwing resources at the defense at this point because we talked about this earlier. That was an embarrassing showing last year. And yep, that's the pick.
At 24, I am going. Bijan
That seems impossible.
Robinson. I know he's not going to be here, and I should have taken him at 21 probably. I'm calling. No, I'm kidding. I love Bijan. I love him so much.
To the Jaguars?
Yeah, dude, we are going. They want to add another running back. Doug said it, and now he acted like that was like deep in the draft. Dude, if you got Etienne and Bijan with Trevor Lawrence, adding Calvin Ridley and their other weapons, oh man.
I feel like that's potentially great.
You play Etienne in the slot?
As a fantasy football player, I probably will jump off a building. Like, no joke. I will actually want to die if that becomes a running back committee.
It will be the greatest running back committee of all time. Okay, so pick 25. We've got Kevin with your hometown New York Giants. So where are you going with the Giants at 25?
They lost Julian Love in free agency. He is a safety, and they lost depth, I think, in their coverage spots. But even before that, they needed corner depth. They really have like a Dory Jackson. They've kind of been running with a bunch of other guys. They're not very deep at corner. I think personally, too, this is a secondary that at times got a lot of tips, but didn't necessarily finish turnovers. And I think if you're the Giants, you're going to try to go for maybe a potential ball hawk in Emmanuel Forbes.
Hmm.
It is bold because he's a guy who he can get taken for a lot of double moves. He can kind of be a gambler, but he's very instinctual. He's good at reading pre-snap. I'd say he's like a good athlete. He's good at high pointing balls, soft hands. I forget what the numbers were on the number of picks he had, but it was
Great.
okay. 14 career picks, 6 return for touchdowns.
Wow.
I think he opens up a different dimension for that offense, or not offense, that defense. And I got to be honest, they don't really have anybody in that secondary who can like make a play on the ball and not only turn into a turnover, but potentially an actual score. And look, he might be a Trayvon Diggs type where it's like he gambles a lot. He might get you a lot of picks, but he also might gamble and not be that fundamental. But I don't know. If you're the Giants, that might be a risk you're willing to take. You got good pass rushers. So if there's a guy who can generate, you'd rather have a guy who's going to take those chances behind good rushers. So I'll gamble. I'll go. I'll riverboat Ron Gamble. I'll go with that pick with the Giants.
Yeah, if Forbes is going to be good, he's probably going to be like top of the draft class type good because of like all those skills. Yeah, the one obviously clear thing you have to mention is he's basically Flat Stanley. But outside of that, like he's pretty long, he's quick, he's not slow. And the ball production like is insane with him. So I'm more intrigued than anything. Like this guy could go round 1 for sure in the real draft, but I don't. It sounds crazy saying this about a 166-pound guy.
Yeah.
I don't see how this guy actually drops that far, which is nuts. Like this guy is unbelievably thin. And
Yeah, it's
you have those
crazy.
concerns, but
You think he could bulk up? Like if he, you think there's a good chance he like bulks up, he puts up more weight, or like what are your thoughts on the potential for him to be maybe not a great physical corner, but like an adequate physical corner?
yeah, I mean, from what I've seen of him, I think he could bulk to maybe still in the 170s. Like again, he and 4.35 for the 40, 37.5 for 124 broad. 10-yard split is super, super fast. It's hard to say. It's always harder to add weight on corners just because they run so much, and like I'm sure his metabolism is incredibly fast. I just think he's a fascinating player, like case study wise. He's still only a junior. He's still a true junior.
Yeah. But I mean, I'll pitch into that too. Like I agree. I think you can put on a little weight. My concern would be like how much weight do you want to put on that it starts impeding your cover
Yes.
skills? Because I do like him as a pure cover corner,
Yeah.
but I worry about like if he goes up against like I don't know, like Jamar Chase or Mike Evans or one of those bigger dudes, he's gonna get pounded into
Yeah.
next week.
My saying with weight for a lot of these positions, it's like people are like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's like I'll always say it always matters. It just matters to what extent with the player.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
different natures of players. With him, you're hoping it matters less relatively. But yeah, I mean, it's all relative. So it's like, oh, you could add 15 pounds on him. It's like, no, I don't think you understand. Like he's probably never playing at 180.
Yeah. But I
yeah.
think I like what you guys said. The ball skills to me I'm more impressed with the ball skills than I am concerned about the weight. So especially at 25, like if you ask me this at 15, different
Yes.
answer.
Yeah,
At
that's
25,
the thing. Like,
I'm a team like the Giants. Yeah, no problem.
Justin, what are you kind of thinking with the Cowboys at 26?
Yeah, first I'm thinking to myself, wow, that was the longest Emmanuel Forbes conversation anyone's had all season long leading up to the draft. And then I'm thinking to myself afterwards, wow, the Jaguars really screwed me here. My name's Jerry Jones, and I wanted my big name playmaker. The Jags came out of left field and did something even I didn't even think they would do. With that, I'm going to go with the same theory that I've gone with in a couple different mock drafts. I think we need to fill and take care of that position that Dalton Schultz has left open, and I am going to take Darnell Washington here from UGA. He doesn't have a lot of
Yeah.
film, but he could be the big guy that really sets this squad apart. I think we got to fill the position and try to take care of our people, and I think that's what's going to make it happen. So give me Washington to come out and make a big name to the Cowboys squad. He's going to get like 800 yards on that team.
Love it.
I like it.
Jordan Addison, receiver out of SC, and my love, my muse, Will McDonald IV, who, oh man,
Oh,
I love Will McDonald. It's a really tough spot because I think we brutally need more weapons on the outside, and I don't think we're paying Gabe Davis. So as much as this kills me, I have to pass on Will McDonald. I picked him in the last mock I did, not to the Bills. I picked him. Who did I pick him to? I picked him to the Vikings in our radio show mock at 23. So
Okay.
I'm going to go Jordan Addison here because I do not think we're keeping. Dude, do I just want to take Will McDonald?
I don't know, man. It's your world.
yeah. I like the Addison pick though.
You know, fine.
I think Gabe Davis is a number 2.
We're going with Addison. I know we could have gotten. We're still late in the second, or we're still late in the second round. So I don't have great confidence that we can get a high impact receiver. I think they're going to get nabbed right before us. So we're either going to have to trade up or just kind of get a pretty good guy. So Addison, we saw him play with the strong arm guy. He had better film with Pitt than he did with Caleb Williams, although part of that was missed a few games. He's more of a cog in the system of, just a total fireworks show with Caleb Williams. And that offense does not funnel targets to receivers. When you see Lincoln Riley receivers do really well, it's like CeeDee Lamb, like he had like 30, over 30% of his team's receiving yards his peak season, but he did it on 62 catches. So Addison, I don't have that many questions about him. I think people are concerned again about the weight, and I really don't, because I don't see major play strength issues. I think he's really good. Honestly, I feel like we upgraded our number 2 receiver spot, and he can do a lot of the same stuff that Diggs does. So listen, you need guys who catch the ball and get open with Josh, and I think he can really do that in the intermediate range of the field, which is what Josh's strength is. So I'm rolling with Addison, as much as it pains me to leave Will McDonald up there. So 28, Noah. So we've got the Bengals, a lot of different directions that they could go here. Where are you kind of, sorting between with Cincinnati at 28?
So I don't think this would happen because I realistically don't think he's here at this point in time. But at 28, so here's what I would do if the prospect I'm going to take would be gone, is I would take a serious look at either Michael Mayer or Jahmyr Gibbs, because I'm not paying Joe Mixon again. That's not happening, and especially with all the legal stuff he's got going on right now, I don't know what's going on with that. It's kind of shady. We don't really know. But with Joey Porter sitting here at 28, I'm going to take him. I think you can't just keep watching Eli Apple get fried every weekend. And then I think like Chidobe Awuzie is fine. If you have a chance to get yourself a big, press man corner, I think he's got added motivation now that, Pittsburgh passed on him. So he's pissed. He probably expects he's going to go up. He was going to go earlier and he falls all the way to 28. If I'm Cincinnati, I've got a corner that I think is maybe a top 20 player in this class falling to me at 28. I'm all over it.
So at 29, Kevin, we've got the Saints. Where are you kind of thinking with them?
Ooh, the Saints in bad years called them the Eights. I mean, they actually could win this division. Like going into this year, Kalijah Cansey out of Pitt. I'm looking at him because he's undersized for the position, and you could say he doesn't have the strength to bull rush NFL guys. And that's all very true. But he's very athletic, front to back, side to side. You can put him in maybe in stunts where he can exploit people with his speed. The tough thing though is if like he can't beat you, if he can't beat you with speed, he's not going to beat you maybe arguably with overwhelming power. Where he might catch you off guard, but if you're looking at him from a Saints fan perspective, it's like, okay, maybe like you bulk him up too, like see what you can get him to maybe. That being said, he can be maybe arguably one-dimensional, but that speed and that athletic ability, I wouldn't pass on that in the late first round.
But
That's a good range for him, though. I feel like there was a little wave of top 10 Kalijah Cansey hype.
yeah, I mean, we were on the show yesterday and I had him as like my most overrated guy, but you know, again, like the nature of the players, he's either going to be sweet or he's not going to be very good. But yeah, I mean, I went down like a rabbit hole, like looking into him. So I got something coming out about him. But yeah, the Saints appear to be doing like a lot of work on him.
I'm going to go interior this time, and I'm going to take Mozzie Smith with this pick. Put Smith with
Ooh.
Jordan Davis on that line. I don't know anyone who's going to push through those two. That's going to be a crazy defensive line to have. Partridge with Fletcher Cox as well. Give me Smith to add that extra level of confidence to our run game. Never have to worry about the run game this season with that kind of stuff. And you've built out yet another defensive lineman to keep in your rotation and keep your team solidified for the future.
You would not get moved if you had Mozzie Smith there. That would actually be kind of elite.
Hey, that's what Howie Roseman's all about. He's about winning in the trenches. So
Yeah.
he's
No,
definitely
you
making sure to do that here. Smith is a guy though that can't play every down. So having him on a team where he's gonna flex through the position also is gonna be a huge benefit to him as well. This is like the team that is best made for people to not have to play every down at that position. And I don't think Smith is an every down interior defensive lineman. So the Eagles are the perfect fit for him.
The Chiefs at 31. I might pull a classic post Super Bowl Chiefs move, but except this time he's actually going to be good, and I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs here. You give Mahomes, who this year I think not having Tyreek forced him to really start relying on the checkdowns a little bit. Give him a guy that to me has, at least in the passing game, Alvin Kamara upside, and a guy who can rotate and run a little bit. You're not going to need him to be like a bell cow, and I don't think he's ever going to be that. But I think at 31, especially in that offense, getting a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs who can catch a check down and turn it into a touchdown, and I think he has high up end production. I mean, you saw like 3-4 games this year where Bryce Young got hurt and he popped for like 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I think you put that in an Andy Reid offense, and sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah.
Would love it. At 32, the two guys that I'm thinking between are Will McDonald and Matthew Bergeron.
Ooh, okay.
Our O-line is really bad, man. The Steelers O-line was bad last year. Now, if you've got JJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, you could say the edge is not like a crazy need, as much as it pains me to pass up McDonald here. And apparently the Steelers are also interested in McDonald. I'm going.
Ooh, okay.
I like it. It's a top of the second round pick too. So
Yeah. This is 32. So, this is technically a second round pick, but this is my rules. So he's lower down the consensus board. He's 64. But I think he has a lot of potential. He'll just kind of have to make some changes. And if he doesn't make those, I have no problems really with him at guard. So he's a guy that I definitely like. And I think it's crazy that Will McDonald is not here. but he would probably, if we kept going, get scooped up pretty quickly. It just so worked that we didn't have an edge go. As crazy as this sounds, we didn't have an edge go after 19,
That's kind of crazy.
which is kind of
Wow.
crazy, but that's how sometimes when you do these, it works out. But yes, this is our mock draft.